There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac, and holy shit, is it ever good to be back. I've been through the ringer. I wasn't seriously ill, but I was the sickest I've been in about 30 years. It was some kind of infection or something, and it was prolonged because my stupid fucking doctor didn't listen to me when I demanded antibiotics on the very second day of the illness, gave me some other medication instead. So I found another doctor by Thursday, and then finally, once the antibiotics started kicking in, I started getting better. But I got so sick because the doctor just flat out ignored it. It wasn't a language issue. He's very fluent in English. He just ignored my request. So, bye-bye. But I'm 99% better. I've still got a little bit of a congestion here, but otherwise, I'm feeling great. So, and then compounded, the last Sunday or something, I made a Sunday Reads video, and I got some weird virus in it, so I couldn't post it, and I was just like, why does God hate me? But I'm gonna try again, and it's gonna work, because God doesn't hate me. There is no God, but if there was a God, she wouldn't hate me, would she? There were only a couple of days where I actually where I was unable to read. My brain cleared fairly quickly. In fact, my brain cleared. It was weird. I had a terrible fever and sweats and stuff, but my brain cleared so that I was able to read even before I got on the antibiotics. And so I had, last week I did do a fair amount of reading, and I had filmed that Weekend Reads, Sunday Reads video to kind of catch up, because I wasn't able to do one last Friday. So this is another attempt, and I'm calling it Last Week Tonight, so that tomorrow I can do Friday Reads for just what's been going on this week. All right? I am dying to make a video. The only thing that I talked about last weekend that I'm not going to talk about in this video is the TBR, the upcoming reads. It just doesn't make sense. I will fold those into my Friday Reads tomorrow. Okay, so I'll talk about Bales, books started, books finished, and that'll be that. Unfortunately, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid was an early bail. I was really skeptical going in. Lots of great readers said, no, this is because I don't like reading about Hollywood movie stars. I just don't. It's not that I'm deeply disinterested, but not in my fiction. No. It would be like I don't want to read novels about plumbers. I mean, it's the same level of disinterest. So I bailed when Evelyn Hugo was recounting how she got her first big role. And she worked really hard on her producer because he was only giving her bit parts. And this was in the 1920s, or I don't know when it was, 1930s. It doesn't matter to me. And she worked really hard to seduce him to get a starring role, and then the scene cut to her on his desk, legs spread, with his face buried between her legs. And I'm not a prude. It wasn't the sexual thing. It was just like, this is so freaking cliche. I just hate it. So, and she was cheating on husband number one. So it's like, no, I don't care if she became a nicer person later. I don't care. I just hated it. So, bye. So because that was my only bail, I started 2 books last week, one of which I also finished last week. The audiobook that I started was another Dennis Johnson, a novella called Train Dreams, and I got a very bare start before I got sick. Oh, are you serious? I don't even feel a breeze, but it's jiggling a bit. Is that going to be annoying for you guys? I'm not doing it. I hope it's okay, because the lighting is nice and I'm so happy to be outside filming a video. So my apologies if it's giving you vertigo. Started out really good on audio. I love the audio narration, I love Dennis Johnson, and I actually can't remember anything about what I listened to, so I'll probably have to start over again. I did a one-day buddy read last Friday with my good friend Lindy from Litzy, who came to my wedding, of this graphic novel, Dust Ship Glory by Elaine Will. This was recommended to me by Dane of Dane Reads after he saw my Saskatchewan literature recommendation video. So Elaine Will is a Saskatchewan graphic novelist, which is fabulous. And this is based on the true story, which was then made into something which sounds ridiculous to me, a docu-novel by Andrea Schroeder. And this is an adaptation of the docu-novel. So I didn't really like it, I didn't hate it. It was a 3-star read for me. I appreciated the art. Lindy was a great hand holder and teacher as I was reading. So this kind of art was the present of the story, whereas this style of art was the backstory. And once I got synced up, understood that, it was a pretty interesting story. So Tom Sukainen was a Finnish-Canadian farmer who got it in his head that he was going to build a ship in the middle of the dirty 30s prairie, Saskatchewan, and somehow float it, take it, travel back to Finland with it. Everybody, according to this story, thought he was crazy, and he eventually did go crazy and died in a mental institution when he was about 85 or 90% finished the ship. So part of the problem that I had was I thought the art deteriorated. Lindy made a good case that it was showing the deterioration of his mind, but I just thought that kind of art was not as sharp, and it's really not my kind of story. Tom Sukainen was represented in this story as a violent, cantankerous, antisocial man who had mental illness issues long before he started working on the ship. The historical record suggests otherwise. I did a little bit of a deep dive, but maybe nobody knows. But I wasn't sure why all the mental illness, antisocial violence was introduced other than to make it comic booky. Didn't appreciate that. He also was made out to be quite a kook with kind of conspiracy theory views, and I didn't like any of that, and that didn't seem to match the historical record. So, but I was pretty frustrated by the end, but wasn't boring. 3-star read. And I finished 2 books last week. Bittersweet, because I loved it so much I didn't want it to end, but the good news is this is the first of a trilogy. The Norwegian novel from 1926, Alberta and Jacob by Cora Sandell, translated by Elizabeth Roken. I love this in a 5-star way. If I can keep my wits about me, I'd like to do a full review on it. It was a Sean book through and through about this young, socially inept Norwegian girl who actually wasn't as young as she seemed. She was about 19 or 20, with an overbearing mother and a distant father and wayward brother, Jacob, in a stultifyingly conservative town in the north of Norway. I loved it. I cannot wait to read. I'm going to read, I hope to read both of the 2 remaining volumes next year. Full review coming, I hope. And yes, I did finish last Friday Women Talking by Miriam Taves. I mentioned it in my Friday Reads 2 weeks ago that I thought it was going to be my book of the year. I'm happy to announce that it is my book of the year. I would be completely flabbergasted if I read anything else in the remaining months of 2018 that topped this. This was incredibly powerful and got all the way inside me. If I can string 2 words together, I'm going to do a full review as soon as possible now that I've got my health back. And this was difficult for me because I was so sick and I only had like 10 pages left, and I didn't want to read it because the penultimate chapter was a bit wobbly and unsatisfying, and I was so worried that I was going to go off the rails, and I put off reading the last 10-page chapter for several days until my mind was clear enough, and I loved it, as did Britta. Britta has a full review on her channel. I'll link that below, and I'm hoping to string some words together to give voice to why this is my book of the year. So yes, I'm not going to tell you about the books that were my TBR books last week because they're my in-progress books this week, and I'll cover them off in tomorrow's Friday Reads. But I feel like a pig in shit to be back making booktube videos. So thanks for your patience and thanks for watching.